Welcome back everybody to one of my art lessons. In this art lesson we're going to be studying Van Gogh's Starry Night. I've chosen this picture for several reasons. One is the study of colour, because it's actually got a very limited colour palette but a very effective colour palette, and all my students know I have a real passion for putting colour into my work and how colour balances and how it works and how complementary colours work and tertiary colours and just the general study of colours and how colours make you feel. The other reason why I've chosen this piece is the movement in the sky, the passage of the stars, the composition. We've worked quite a lot on composition over the past couple of years and the rules of composition, and certainly Van Gogh considered a lot when in his painting of the Starry Night. So we're going to look at some of the things that he studied. He was in an asylum when he painted Starry Night. He was actually in an asylum at the time, and he painted Starry Night through the bars of his window. He didn't include the bars. I think it's quite a poignant piece, actually, Starry Night. There's a couple of things in here that I'll cover as we're doing it, but this first lesson is about getting it onto your canvas. Now, I'm going to ask you to recreate Starry Night in acrylics this time. So you're going to need a limited colour palette, but the first thing you're going to need is canvas. Now you can either do it on a canvas panel such as this. Okay, so this is a canvas board or canvas panel. You can get them from any decent art store. You can use canvas paper. Okay, so canvas paper, if you want to tape it to a board, it doesn't need stretching. It's not 100% cotton. It is going to have some buckling, some cockling, but it will go back down flat because it's not 100% cotton. You don't need to stretch it. The reason why I'm asking you to tape it to a board is to just secure it while you're painting. Or again, you could use a canvas, regular canvas for this project. The other thing I'd like you to do is either use a iPad or a tablet or your computer screen to view your picture, your reference picture, or print it out. Now I do recommend when you print out, use photo paper. Now you can go to any good supermarket or supply store or stationers, and you can get photo paper and A4 sheets. Run it through your home printer. You can even get printing done online. The difference in colour is staggering, and you can see every little detail, every little nuance, more so than if you're taking it from a screen. So do print out your reference photos onto photo paper where you can. It's a fallacy that it uses more ink because cheap paper absorbs the ink. So with photo paper, the ink is sitting on the top. So it is a fallacy that this photo paper will take more ink. It doesn't. It's more cost effective. You can keep them. You can use them for reference. You'll be surprised how many times you will revert back to a reference photo that you have treasured and you have looked after. You may take bits of it and keep it, and you may use it for other people. So it's worth investing in photo paper. It's not expensive, a couple of pounds for a pack of 10. So it's definitely worth it. The other thing you're going to need for this lesson is a graphic pencil. Stay within the H's, not the B's, please. So you're looking at an H or a 2H, a B if need be, or no softer than a B, please. We don't want graphite everywhere. The weave of a canvas will cause graphite dust anyway, and it will wear down your pencil, so you don't want a lot of graphite anyway skimming all around your canvas. So stick to an H, a 2H or a B, or even an HB. The other thing you're going to need possibly is an eraser. Now I found this little eraser in my local art shop. I'm really quite taken with it. It's an eraser pen, really simple to use. It has a refillable eraser. Okay, so that's one here. You get all sorts of different types of these erasers. The other one that I like is the Derwent Black Eraser. It's a soft eraser. It doesn't leave smears and erases really nicely, doesn't leave a lot of crumbs, and that's the other one I really like. Okay, so that's all you need. You don't need a ruler for this. Okay, so we are not going to be gridding, we are not going to be tracing. We're going to be using a measuring technique. So on previous exercises, I've taught you how to trace. I've also taught you how to grid. This time, we're going to be using measuring techniques. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is on your canvas, you may have a canvas. Mine is slightly bigger. The reason why I've done this slightly bigger is for the purposes of the lesson, I'm going to be testing paint swatches round the outside for you. What this also does mean is if I wanted to frame it afterwards, I would simply put a mount around the area where I have paint swatched and I could frame this. If you have a canvas that is not the same size as your reference photo, that is okay, because what we're going to do is take your reference photo and we're going to make some visual cues. Okay, let me just make sure I'm in shot for you. I am. Okay, so we're going to make some visual cues. Let's look at the reference photo. Let's have a look at this horizon line. Have your reference photo next to your side. My side of where I'm going to be drawing is larger than my reference photo. It's in proportion. I've measured it and drawn myself out a square that's in proportion. If I look and I have my reference photo within my drawn rectangle, I can see that this horizon line here is around halfway. So I'm going to make myself a halfway mark. This line of trees is just above quarter of the way. So I'm going to make a mark there. And then this line of clouds, or it's kind of a line of movement and sunshine, is less than the quarter mark there. Okay, so they're my markers, they're my place measurements. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to go from this left side. Where's my halfway mark? My halfway mark is here. Make myself a dot. This sweeping, I think it's like a line of stars, a line of light, is underneath halfway. So it comes about there. Make a definite mark. Okay? The horizon line is, this is half, it's just over quarter. So I know these hills have got to be here. This line of stars is about there. This is quarter of the way down. This line here of sweeping stars is sitting between the quarter and the half. So it's got to go around there. So I'm going to start joining things up. Okay. Now the other thing you've got to look at is these are the cypress trees. Okay, now Van Gogh put cypress trees in Starry Night. The cypress trees reminded Van Gogh of his own mortality. They sadly represent death. You may choose to put the cypress trees in your picture, or you may choose to remove them. I'd like to give you that option, especially because of what it symbolises. He was very aware of his own mortality, and one of the reasons why he was in an asylum. So I'd actually like to give you the option of either removing the cypress trees, maybe replacing the cypress trees with something that's more poignant to you. Maybe you'd like to put in an oak tree, maybe you'd like to put in a landmark, or maybe you'd like to stick with the original painting and put in the cypress tree. For this exercise, I'm going to stick with the original. I'd like you to find the halfway point on your reference photo and halfway point on your picture, and put in, if you're putting in the cypress trees, the curve of the cypress trees. Again, we're only place marking it. Okay? And we're just going to see how high it is, how tall these trees are going. They're going practically all the way to the top. So now is a case of, let's join these dots up. Now one thing you can do is, it's a bit of a trick with the brain. If you're right-handed, put your left finger on your reference photo. And what it does is it guides you and keeps your brain focused on where you're going. As you move along, you need to move your finger to where you're drawing. It grounds your brain and tells your brain, your hand is talking to your brain, and it's making your left side of your brain talk to your right. So then we're going to move over to this the horizon line. It doesn't matter if it's not completely accurate. It doesn't matter. We've got to get from here to here. This is where we've got to get to. So you can put yourself in a dotted line. This is where we have to get to. So let's put in this curve. And we know this hill has to go in to here. We've got to fit in this curve and this other hill. As you can see, I'm moving my finger. Okay, so we've got this horizon line going in here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put this cypress tree in. Now I've gone to move it over there, but actually my brain doesn't like it over there at all. So I'm going to hold it slightly up so I can see where it is. I'm going to keep looking at it and judging where my marks are. In relation to the marks on the side of my canvas. And I know I've got to get up to the top where we put these marks in. It's a bit like doing a dot to dot. You're constantly measuring with your eye. Okay, so there's our cypress tree in. And it's a bit imposing, this cypress tree, so as I say, you don't have to have it in. There's another horizon line in here. There's another line of, it's not so much a horizon line, it's here in the back. Can you see? Just this blue line here. It joins there. There's a line of hills, then that goes from there and cuts across. Now there's another rule of composition which we have covered over your years with me, and that is we never put an object in the centre of a picture. If you look at Starry Night, you will see here is the church. Now, when Van Gogh looked out of the asylum, he couldn't see this. This was not here. This was reminiscent of his memories. This is what he could. He superimposed this onto his view. This village wasn't there. This church wasn't there. And what he has done is very, very cleverly offset this. So this church is not in the middle. That would be in the middle. The church is offset. He very carefully considered his composition. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, there's your middle mark. Draw a line up this middle, very lightly. Remember, we're going to be using acrylic, so acrylic will go over all of this. Okay, there's your middle mark on your reference photo. So what you're going to do is, you're going to then put your pointy finger. Now it doesn't matter if your buildings are not quite in the perfect position. After all, this is your interpretation of this. It's not an exact one, and it doesn't have to be. I don't want you to put any major details in. We're not going for the windows and things yet. I'm looking for you to place structure. Okay, let's get the spire in. Okay, so our church, for all intents and purposes, let's put the windows in now, is in. Okay, so our spire, my spire is slightly longer to the hills. My hills are slightly higher. But that's okay, because it's my interpretation of this. We've got a rolling hillside. Let's roll this hillside a little bit more and bring it in. And we've got fields going on. Now, this is going to be brought in by brush strokes. But let's put some of these in with some of the roofs to bring it to life. And we've got little patches of light. We're building shapes and structure. Again, doesn't need to be exact. We're going to be building these in as we paint this. But we have trees. Okay. The little areas of yellow are areas of light catching, light being left on in the buildings, people who are home, people who have lives, representing life outside the asylum, where he was interred, incarcerated. It doesn't say in the history book that it was an incarceration against his will or free will or his choice, just that he was there. I think it's quite sad. So let's mark these roofs in. As you can see, I'm not spending a lot of time making sure they're perfect. We're looking at shapes. We're looking for movement. Let's put these hedges and rolling trees in. Okay, these trees, remember, as things go off in the distance, they come closer together and they're smaller. As they come nearer to you, they space out and get bigger. He's considered all of this in his paintings. Okay, so we've got all that side in. And then if we move over here, let's get these trees in. And this is more brush strokes. There's actually a little building here, which I've never noticed before. And I've studied this quite a bit recently, and there's a little building. Okay, so the structure of the buildings are in really quickly. What I'd like to talk to you about is the sky. Scientists studied the sky with Van Gogh afterwards, and the positioning of the stars at that time are actually proven now to represent Venus. Somehow Van Gogh painted Venus, that we now know. So in some ways he was exceptionally gifted. Scientific astronomer, we'll never know, I suppose, but exceptionally gifted. And he's managed to capture movement. And if you go to see the picture and you look at it in a certain way, you actually can, it's been said that you can see the sky move. So what you're going to do is, if you look here, this is where it can get tricky, because when you're looking at a spherical object in particular, it's very easy to make something bigger. Put your halfway mark on your reference picture, and at the top, then I'd like you to divide that into a quarter. If you look, this moon here, again, half and a quarter, is actually sitting at the bottom of the quarter. Automatically, you are going to make this moon massive. It's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to put it almost as big as that quarter. It's the first mistake you will make when you're drawing this picture. So what I'd like you to do is divide up your picture into where your halves and your quarters will go. And the first thing you're going to do is draw your moon in, and then I imagine the second thing you'll do is erase it. Because for some reason you will make it huge. And I have no idea why. Whether it's because it's spherical or whether it's the shading round it. It's actually not too bad. The amount of times I've drawn this out now, it's not too bad. Okay, and then you can give a guide of where the brush strokes will be round it and where they're going to end up. I actually don't think I've done mine big enough this time. Okay, so it just gives you a guide. Then I want you to mark in this line of where the stars fleet across this path of sky. There. Okay. Then I want you to put it's like a pretzel in the middle. It's like a knot. And it's this knot here that creates the sense of movement, this swirl. It's like a little bit of a croissant going on. Okay, so we made a mark here, right at the beginning. It's got to end up in the middle. Okay, now we're not going to worry about it being a poor composition being in the middle, because yes, this sits on the middle here, but it doesn't sit smack bang in the centre of the picture. It sits on what we call the golden third. You've been with me now for a while, so if you look and we divide it onto the lines of thirds, we've got one line there and we have one line there. We're going to divide it into thirds. This swirl here sits on the golden third. He was an exceptionally clever man. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. That's going to be our third. So we know this point, this swirl here, sits there. Okay? This is where it has to end up. Now you might want to do this lightly. You might just want to go for it. It's your choice. Now you have an eraser, it's absolutely fine to use it. It doesn't matter if you do sketchy lines because we are going to be going over it with acrylic. Okay, so that there is too much of a, that was too harsh an angle. Okay, so it almost looks like it could be right. That's it. And then it peeps out. This is where I always struggle. It's just here. I struggle with this bit. Okay. Then it has to come up and it has to end over there. It reminds me a bit of Gaudi, Van Gogh, this Starry Night. It actually reminds me of the organic nature of Gaudi. Very reminiscent of it. It's almost like a cross between them both. Okay, so this here for me isn't quite big enough, so I just took that out slightly. Okay, so we've got our kind of pretzel in here. Now what makes this picture what it is the astrology. So it's really important we get the stars in where we need them. It's really important we get our astronomy correct. So we're going to put our finger on. Let's mark these stars in. Okay, so that's number 1. We've got that number 1 in. And then we take it to the right of the peak. They're a bit like scrambled eggs. And we put the second one in. We drop it down. And we put that third one in. Take it up with your pointed finger. And we place this one in. And then put the small star in. Remember, this is astrology, it's Venus, so it has to be where it goes. You can change the bottom, but not the top. Let's put this star in. Move it down. And that one. So we've traced all those stars. What's easy to forget is this little one here. The amount of times I've forgotten this one is there. Move across to the left. And put in this one. And then coming out from behind here. And then we have the large one. Make sure this will be different. When this is filled in with paint, it'll be different. Okay. And then what you can do is, if you have a dusting brush, okay, so a dusting brush is really simple to find. You can use a makeup brush, you can use a big fat paintbrush. Brush away any rubber dustings. Okay, what you don't want to do is use your hand because it will smear graphite. Don't worry if you've got excess graphite because, as I say, we are using acrylic. Okay, so we are just using acrylic and we'll just paint over the top. Just keep an eye on your reference picture. Just check, refer back, just make sure you've got all the points in that you want and that you're happy. Okay, so I think I just need a couple more trees there. There is a section I've forgotten. Okay, so here we put in this bit of extra horizon line there, but I haven't put it in there. And I also haven't put this, I've put this bit of field in there, but I haven't put in, I didn't put in that there, okay? And if I don't put it in, that will throw me when I'm painting. It's little bits like that. Okay, so we have now drawn out Starry Night ready for painting. Okay, now for your next session, which I will record this week, you are going to be needing your primary colours of paint. So red, blue, yellow. I also want you to have white and black. Your blue, if you could also please look for a cobalt or cerulean blue. And your yellows, I'd like you to have a lemon yellow, and if you can, a cadmium yellow. And you're going to require a brown as well. So let's look at that again. Your primaries are black and white. Your blues as well, please have either a cobalt or cerulean. And on your yellows, see if you can fit in a lemon or a cadmium yellow, and let's pop in a brown as well. Okay, and I look forward to joining you next time. Take care.